Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Home Run Podcast. Today is June 25th, 2025, and I'm your host, Alex Sendek. I hope everyone is staying cool as this heat wave is not only a confirmation that summer is in full swing, but that our purchase season is as well. Purchase market, for all who don't know, is notoriously kind of the busiest time of the year for LOs and realtors alike, and is generally when the rest of the world likes to go on holiday. So for all of you industry insiders listening, I hope you have your vacation plans pushed for the fall, because we are full steam ahead on all things investment here at Beeline, as always, along with your humble host, much to my wife's dismay, I might add. Sorry, babe. Last week, we got pretty granular as we spoke with top producing realtor Ashley Von Walter about how unfamiliar many realtors are with investment properties and just non-QM loans in general, and how just learning a few simple things can make them way more effective and attractive to serious buyers and investors. This week, we're zooming out a little bit. We're joined by Adi Pavlović, founder of Newzip, a company that connects buyers with a massive national network of realtors. So we want to dig into how Newzip got started, how music and emotion still play into what is often a pretty analytical process, and what they're seeing from investors and realtors alike as this market shifts, as always. So Adi, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex.
So I guess we'll just jump right into it. You have a really cool origin story. I guess we'll just kind of start from there. You came to the U.S. from Bosnia. How did that journey shape the way you think about opportunity and work? And maybe just kind of go into that whole intro in general. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll go way back. So my family, we migrated here from ex-Yugoslavia in the early 90s during the Bosnian War. And it was a crash course in like financial literacy, I think, for us personally. Didn't really think about home ownership. And, as a kid, my parents had to kind of hit the reset button. So they had careers in Bosnia and then had to reset and start bagging groceries. And so really kind of, one of the classic, immigrant stories of building a home, a life here. And one of the things we did was we bought a house when I was in high school and learned the term home poor, house poor. So, I think it was just the crash course of like, we didn't have a ton of guidance. And so I just sat shotgun seeing my parents, learn from their mistakes, and really didn't learn about the power and value of homeownership until I was in like my mid-20s. And it was kind of mind-blowing for me that this is how people build generational wealth. This is how people pass down wealth from one generation to another. And so it was just like a good crash course into learning that, and fell in love with the industry, and really do believe in the empowerment of real estate as an investment, as an asset class, but also obviously as a utility, to build a family.
How old were you when you moved from Bosnia?
I was 7.
Got it. Yeah, so first gen, and just kind of learning on the fly, and not only just learning on the fly from moving to a new country, but like it's not like everybody has a learning curve when it comes to home ownership and just what a mortgage and real estate can do for you, right? Like I think it's not just moving from a different country, but there's a lot of, I don't want to say financial illiteracy, but like just it takes time to learn what a mortgage can do for you, right? I mean, there's a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
And if they don't teach it. They don't teach it. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't teach that in high school. So that, I think that would be very critical and important. It's such an important part of our economy and our infrastructure. Learning the hard way makes you realize the power of knowledge, and how do you pass that down to other folks who are in a similar boat.
And I think I see a lot of alignment with you, Adi, and some of our founders. I've done a couple of episodes with like our CEO Nick Liuzza. Before real estate, you were in tech, even wine tech. I'm a big wino guy myself. What did that early startup experience teach you about kind of the product market fit that still guides your thinking today? Like, we love our tech here at Beeline. I know how you feel about it clearly with your track record. yeah, like I said, what did that kind of early startup experience teach you?
Yeah, my first job out of college was a startup. So, I went to the University of Texas here in Austin. We had something called South by Southwest. It's a very popular tech, music, film festival. And just around that time, I was coming out of college. I mean, it's when like Twitter launched at South by. And so there was a lot of buzz and energy. And I kind of just got sucked into it. And it was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And I was fortunate enough to land a job at a startup that acquired the domain wines.com. So we were trying to build one of the stronger search portals for wine that you could have an indexable and digitized library online, and you can just click a button and it shows up to your door, right? Like very common today, but back in 2009, it was a novel idea, especially with like liquor and alcohol. And so, I just got a crash course in like building a startup. I didn't even know what my title was until a few years after it, where I was interacting with our customers and then taking their feedback and talking to our engineers who are in Costa Rica and managing the deployment of that software. And then I learned that's what product managers do. So another thing that was like a crash course, I realized I was like,
it organically.
Yeah, my first job was being a product manager. And that was really kind of where we failed. Like the startup failed. We got an offer for the domain, which the owner took, rightfully so. And that was a learning experience very early in my career. Of like, okay, cool. Why did we fail? And just at that time, it was during South by. I was at a panel that was led by Naval Ravinka, very famous tech entrepreneur. And he was like, 90% of startups fail due to lack of market research, like understanding the market, the pricing, and navigating that. And so that was my signal to go become a market research consultant. So right after the startup, I was like, cool, I'm going to do that. And then join a market research firm that was based out of England, but I had a satellite here in Austin. And wore that hat for 3 years, where I would study markets, I would study new entrants, a lot of M&A activity, and just kind of build that skill of understanding where technology fits within certain markets and how it can be the most effective. And one of the projects I worked on while I was doing that was smart homes. The telecom industry was very interested in getting into smart homes. So I published a white paper about the future of smart homes, that impacts home values, et cetera. And Keller Williams picked up the white paper and thought it was interesting enough to offer me a job. And so that's how I went from like tech into like real estate, which really was like real estate tech.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I actually had no idea about that piece with the smart home aspect. My dad actually, but he was a contractor, just a residential contractor. And then, with the housing crash, frankly, new builds were a little bit slow, we might say. So he pivoted and got into the smart home, kind of renovating homes into smart homes, and like became a huge thing. And that's just kind of a cool tidbit I didn't know. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, right on. There's certainly like that wave. Like I think that's fizzled out, but there was a few.
There was a time when that was hot. That was so hot. It was awesome. So, and I would say probably may have fueled my college fund. So appreciate you smart homers out there. So, so tell me a little bit more about Keller Williams and KW Labs. You built KW Labs or was part of it, and did it feel like you were introducing tech into a world that wasn't even ready for it yet? Because we feel a lot like that at times over at Beeline. Again, we're a super tech forward facing company. And just sometimes I just feel like the industry just lags way, way, way far behind. And that's A, props to Beeline, but B, props to you and KW for even kind of going that route where we're in kind of like, I don't want to call it dinosaur industry, but very slow, it seems like, to move into that tech world. What would you say? That surprised you most about innovating real estate? I mean, was that as well or no?
I was surprised when I got the call. And in the interview, I told them, one, I'm not a homeowner. I don't know much about real estate. I'm like obsessed with this tech thing. I'm trying to figure that out. And their response was like, perfect. That's what we need. So, Keller Williams was this traditional real estate brokerage that was growing crazy, like since the 80s. And it was really I got to work for Gary Keller, who's like an industry legend. And he basically saw a need for someone to come in and research the impact of technology in the real estate space. So I kind of brought in almost as like an internal consultant where I studied the space. I studied the impact of some of the, the bigger players in the space. At the time was Zillow. And once Zillow IPO'd, it became very clear to us that, wow, this is going to unlock a lot of venture capital coming into the space, which it did. We were right about that. And then the question became, hey, what do we do as Keller Williams to evolve? And that's where we started doing like the build, borrow, buy conversation. Like, do we acquire software? Do we just license it out? Or do we build it ourselves? And what the company determined to do at the time was to build it. So, hey, let's own our destiny. Let's build a platform. We have, at the time, it was probably like 160,000 agents. And let's enable them to be amazing at their job. So everyone wants to use a Keller Williams agent. Because, even still today, 90% of people use a realtor. So the thesis made a lot of sense to me. It was like, wow, there's this antiquated industry. The space is evolving. This is a really cool place and time to go and attack this. And that's exactly what we did. So KW Labs was essentially the R&D arm. We started with the research. We decided to develop. So now I know why they call it R&D. And so, yeah, my team, the first question was, what do we build first? There's obviously a lot of things we can build. So the first thing we did was we hit the pavement. We started shadowing realtors, home buyers, home sellers. At KW Labs, we built a muscle where we did focus groups twice a week. We do that for a few years, and you get to learn a lot. And so, by just having that knowledge base of all these agents who are more than willing to allow us to ride shotgun and see what their lives look like, really empowered us to build solutions that would solve that. And so during my time at Keller, probably built over 20 different products. Not all of them made it to production and scale, but it was a really quick way to go from ideation to MVP iteration, and then a portfolio product that hundreds of thousands of realtors and millions of potential home buyers and sellers would use. Yeah, it was an awesome experience. I'm super grateful for it.
That is an awesome testimony. And also, shout out to both. That's a gutsy move on you as a non-homeowner to jump into that role, I would say. It's also a gutsy move for Mr. Keller, right? Or whoever was whoever hired you to be this is a good idea. And then I think there's a lot to be said there. It's hey, in this industry, having a fresh set of eyes makes the world of difference. And I can see that's kind of their angle there, and you nailed it, right? That's awesome.
Shout out to Gary, right? There's a reason he's a legend and pioneer in the space.
Absolute legend.
2 months into the job. So Keller Williams, we do these 2 big conferences a year, Mega Camp Family Union, thousands of agents come. It's it is high energy. And Gary goes, hey, I want you to go on stage and tell people what the future looks like in 5 to 10 years. I was like, Gary, I just got here. I don't know. I'm whatever, mid-20s, really? And he's like, yeah, really. So we made a video. It's out there somewhere in YouTube land where someone bought a home without physically interacting with the realtor. And it was I was expecting that to get shut down immediately. We're at a place that empowers realtors. Why would we talk about a future where realtors aren't as prevalent in the transaction? And so it was a thing that was never said out loud at Keller. And Gary was like, yeah, let's think about that. Let's see what the alternative universe looks like, so we can really define what is the true value of the realtor in the future. And so we did exactly that. We made a video, and someone buys a house with Bitcoin and uses AI to all that. And this was back in, golly, I don't know, 2015, 10 years ago. And I just thought it was bonkers. I was like, this is insane. Yeah, but it started to create change and started to create shift, and the conversations became a lot different. Now, in retrospect, I understand why he did that. But I don't know if I was the right person to do that, but it ended up working.
Somebody had to rip off the Band-Aid and let I think I can imagine this audience of just some slack-jawed realtors I still use a Rolodex, and then you're out here telling about the future and the new world coming to them. I can only imagine how awesome that must have been.
It was a shock for sure. It was fun.
That's awesome. All right, cool. So now we have a bit of background, Adi, and let's talk about Newzip, which again I'm super familiar and love the platform, love the company. Um, what was the catalyst that kind of made you decide to go out on your own? I mean, what were other players in this incubation realtor space not doing or doing badly that Newzip nails as well as a follow-up? So it's a 1-2
Yeah.
question there.
Yeah, happy to. So, while I was at Keller, we bought a mortgage company and we launched Keller Mortgage. And my job was to bring a fresh perspective to everything we did. So, in theory, they're like, hey, we're going to attach mortgage to the real estate side and vice versa. Like not a new model. Other folks have tried this. And, my team was like, oh, so like we're going to introduce bundle and saving. And they're like, no, don't say that. RESPA compliance. Like we actually can't do that. But I'm like, but that's what we're doing. We're leveraging like the unit economics that the realtor collects a commission, and realtors don't really like discounting their commission. They provide a lot of value. And they have the right to charge what they think is fair, but it creates friction when they do it with consumers. Meanwhile, realtors are paying these, 35-40% referral fees to get leads from Zillow. And so the idea was like, well, hey, why don't we leverage the unit economics of like realtors spend money on sales and marketing? What if you took that referral fee that they're paying and then found a way to give that back to the consumer? And so that's like that at Keller, that was my first kind of instinct is like, cool, it's like great cost savings and pass it back to the consumer. That's a killer deal. Travel, auto, insurance have done this. No one's really done it in real estate. And for whatever reason on paper, that was the idea. We never got to build it. And so that just kind of planted the seed. When I left Keller Williams, I went and was an entrepreneur in residence at a famous prop tech venture capital company called Modern Ventures. And they invested in Better.com. And Better was this mortgage company that had raised a lot of capital. Yeah. And saying, hey, we're going to offer real estate services, title, insurance, et cetera, and I'll create this one-stop shop bundling and saving. And I was like, okay, cool. Like other people have the same concept. Obviously, doing it in a RESPA compliant way is the challenge, but the unit economics work. In theory, this really works. And so that was a signal for me to be like, other people have done this. We didn't invent the model, but no one's really built a platform approach that leverage data between the interactions the customer has with the loan officer and a realtor, because 8 to 9 out of 10 people use both. And those people use completely different tech stacks. They don't talk to each other. So there's this gap of like the connective tissue between what the loan officer is doing with the consumer and what the real estate agent is doing for consumer. They're helping people navigate the largest financial transaction of life. And they really just talk to each other via like email, maybe a phone call. And that just seemed like a tremendous opportunity to, one, unlock that data so everyone gets better at their jobs and creates a better customer experience. Because like, guess what? 50% of people cry during the real estate transaction. Like name any other thing in the world where that's okay. So that's insane. The customer experience can get a lot better. The cost savings is there. It can get a lot cheaper for the customer. Meanwhile, everyone else makes their buck. And so that to me just clicked. And I was like, cool, this is what I want to spend my career doing. And was just fortunate enough to meet the right folks, the right team, the right investors to be able to kick this off about 3 years ago.
That is awesome. And hey, did not know about the 50%, although I'm not surprised on the criers. Hopefully you're doing tears of joy over here at Beeline and with Newzip, but
yeah, no tears here. That's the mission statement. Yeah.
No tears, only tears of joy. Yeah. That is awesome though. And you know what? And for me, when it comes to Newzip, what I think is super special is, unless you know a family member or a friend who's a realtor, you really don't have a ton to go off of on like, where do you go? Where do you go find a realtor that you can trust? And, let's be honest, realtors do, I believe they certainly earn their commission, but it is a stout commission check at the end of the day. And so you expect a premium service along with what they're providing you, right? So for those folks who don't have a ton of insight in that realtor market in their location, Newzip is kind of basically pressing the easy button. Am I right? Like that's what it's at the end of the day, like that's its bread and butter, in my opinion, right? Like
all realtors are not equal. So when you're making the
No.
largest financial transaction, you want to work with the best. There's 1.2 million of them. I think there's a little bit more, but 20% do majority of the business. So you're right. Like unless you have word of mouth, which is still a very popular way to find a realtor, how do you assess it? And there's a lot of ways to search online and the Zillows of the world. But yeah, like it's really hard to find a great realtor that's going to, take that 50% number to zero. And so that's what we did. The first thing we did is build a network. So leveraging my, 8 years at Keller and experience, we knew all the good agents and we contacted them and said, hey, we're going to build this model where we're going to work with mortgage lenders to embed a real estate experience because more and more customers are interacting with mortgage lenders first before speaking with a realtor. That's like a massive consumer shift. And so, mortgage companies need to get better at real estate. And so that was like really our thesis to go out and build that bridge and only build it to the best agents. Like we have high requirements of the agents that need to be in our network. And then once they're in, it's how they perform. Not just do they convert, but do they communicate? Do they, give us updates regularly? Not just us, the loan officer, the consumer. If there's any hiccup, we really penalize our agents. Say like, we're trying to find the best of the best. So we have to be really diligent about that. But the net result for the customer is so strong that we're more than happy to continue to grow the network and find the right agents. Because you're right, not everyone has that word of mouth or that ability. I mean, we certainly didn't, right, with my family. And so finding a great realtor can be life-changing.
And do you guys do a service for not only just for buying, but for selling too, for listing agents too, or no?
Yeah. So we save customers 50 bips on the buy side transaction, so 0.5%. On average, we're saving a couple $1,000. That's applied as credit at closing, right? So the realtor charges their commission. They pay us a referral fee. We give majority of that referral fee back to the customer as credit at closing. So it decreases their cash close. I mean, that is 100% like money in their pocket that they're saving by using the program and working with our lender partners. And then on the sell side, we do a 1%. So we actually double that amount. And that's like a pre-negotiated listing discount. Because now that we built this great agent network that we feed with deals, they're willing to work with us more. And so we ask our consumers to utilize our leverage to work with a top agent below market value and still get the best experience because, that's what we've been building.
You're being paid essentially to use a heavily vetted realtor list, more or less. That's what we're to dumb it down. You're as a consumer, I'm being paid in a sense by having closing costs reduced to use a company that provides an extremely vetted list of realtors for me to choose from. Do I basically have that right?
Yeah. Like when you think about it, if you go on Zillow, those agents are paying for that ad space. So are they the best, or are they the ones who are just advertising at that time and place to get your attention, right? We've like curated it. We have an agent matching algorithm. We use data, but then we actually have a human element. So on our side, we have licensed realtors who are part of Newzip, and they're the first point of contact with the customer. They get to single-handedly decide which agent's the best fit, because sometimes it's not just about the production. It's also about the personalities. It's about, the art and the science of finding the best realtor, because it's so important. We do that.
Sales skills are just as important on the realtor side as the loan officer side. That's 100% fact. But yeah, basically the answer is yes. You are paying customers to use a list of extremely vetted, experienced, talented realtors. That's pretty tough to beat, in my opinion. I think that's awesome. So
thank you.
Just saying. All right. So moving on for the buyer standpoint, are there any buying tips you'd give right now that aren't the same kind of tired ones we've all heard? What would you say in regards to that?
I think if you listen to this podcast, it means you know what's going on in the market, right? So I don't have to tell you. But I think there's going to be a really strong shift here soon. The inventory levels are the highest they've been in 5 years. And like, if you're looking back at the last 20, it's like one of the highest ever. And I really think that it's slightly a buyer's market. Like affordability is obviously an issue, but the amount of listing sellers out there, there's 30% more sellers than buyers out in the market. And they, days on market is a metric that we watch, and it hovers. It's usually pretty flat, increases slow. It's been increasing more rapidly, and that tells us that prices are about to drop. And so I think if you're a buyer in this market, if you've checked out the affordability issue, it is a wonderful time to buy, because you're going to get a lot of leverage. You're going to have a lot of negotiation power, and you're going to get a lot of properties below market value. How long it'll last, no one knows. I'm not going to sit here and predict, but I do know that in the next 90 days, it is going to be a really strong buyer's market.
Agreed. And hey, we are in that summer season, baby. That's right when we're in the strongest time of the purchase market, and I agree with you. And again, you said on a question I was going to ask about the market in general. Is there more movement than people realize? Are you seeing, and follow up, are you seeing activity in areas with more inventory or looser regulations, or vice versa? Not sure what you kind of see on your side there.
Yeah, it's hard. Every market's different, which is the beauty of real estate. Really, where we're seeing like high inventories, kind of like south and west regions of the U.S. That's where we anticipate prices to drop a little more aggressively. Northeast is not as much inventory as those other regions, so it will drop slower, is the theory, right? But that's really hard. Like regionally, every market's different. Here in Austin, we have a unique real estate market, but overall the macro is pretty consistent in every market. It's just by like how much, what's the delta that the prices will drop, and then who knows, right? Like I really think that people need to move. What's great about real estate, people talk about the seasonality and the cycles of it. I mean, on average, about a little over 5 million people buy a house every year. We're at like 4.5, right? So we're slightly below. But the crazy thing is,
we're feeling it. I mean, we're feeling it this summer. I mean,
but it's like, it's not as critical as, it's the end of the world for, the headlines, but it's like, no, it's just like a down market. Then it's going to go back up to 5 and maybe go to 6 like they did, for a couple of years, and it'll just change. But people, it's that demand is still there. The demand is not going anywhere. And if anything, supply is shrinking. We're not building enough homes. And so to me is like, as a new father, it's like, I want my daughter to be able to buy a house, but man, there's not going to be a lot of inventory, which means like really high. So you have to start thinking about that.
If we have any lag in the purchase market this season, it has nothing to do with demand. I know that people are ready to buy. It's a lot of other external factors playing a role into that, but it's not about demand. People are looking to buy, and unfortunately they're on the sidelines right now. We'd love to get them off the sidelines in any way we can, and we're constantly looking to find products that make home buying more attainable, and fostering home ownership is something that is a core value of Beeline, as well as Newzip, I'm sure. And so, it's just interesting to me how we're a little slow right now, but and just like this, it can turn into, like you said, a massive purchase blowout at the turn of a corner in this market, whether it's economic, what have you, right? Like,
you can make a case like not launching Newzip during like a long real estate recession was not the best timing, but it also was, because when affordability is the issue, the cost savings we provide for our program are much more meaningful than they would have been in 2020, when everyone, 2% interest rates, anyone can really afford, not anyone, but like majority of America could afford real estate. So now when it's less affordable, finding savings and cost savings and efficiencies is like even more meaningful. So it's actually worked in that regard, that like the product and the value is even more critical now, even though the market's slow.
The half a point you provide for using your services for buyers, for example, can be used to discount your interest rate, make your purchase powering just that bit stronger, or your payment just a little bit lighter. And I think that's really important to note, that a lot of buyers may not realize, like, that half a point or 50 basis points that you provide, that's a significant benefit, and can be used in a number of ways to, again, increase the amount of home you buy or decrease just that monthly payment and enjoy a little bit of savings there. So I think it's really slept on how beneficial that amount of concession can really mean to any single real estate transaction.
Yeah, well said.
All right, so we talked a lot about the market, and again, we're over here at Beeline. We're a DSCR non-QM focused lender, all things investment. And what do you see? Do you see any volume for folks that are looking for kind of complex financing like DSCR, non-QM? Do you have realtors that feel comfortable in that space? How does Newzip kind of create a better experience for buyers such as those?
Yeah. When we build our network, having structured data about the realtors is really important to us. So understanding where they strong at, right? Some folks lean more like luxury. Some people are really good with VA, have done a lot of VA loans, et cetera. And then some realtors are really strong with investors. And honestly, like the best realtors usually work with investors. So it aligns with our network extremely well. We've seen a slight uptick in investors. I think they're more sensitive to market movement and seeing like inventory and prices coming down. I think like investors get more aggressive if they're well positioned. And so we've actually seen an uptick in the type of deals, more investor deals, and even like international investors too.
Yeah.
Coming in the market. We're seeing some growth there as well. And it's funny because when I studied realtors, right, I came in being unbiased, right? Never used one. So I was like, I'm just going to call it how it is. One of the studies we did was on the travel industry, and travel agents, went away is the term everyone says. And so we were like, okay, cool. Let's look at what technology did to the travel industry, right? What Expedia.com did, which by the way, were the same founders who started Zillow. So there was a lot of relevant information there. And we said, what will that mean for realtors in the future? And what happened with travel, what we found is a lot different than what's happening with real estate. And in fact, travel agents did not go away. Millennials use travel agents more than anybody, and plenty of them still exist, which was news to me. However, what we found that was really difficult to replace the real estate agent. There's been billions of dollars of venture capital money that has tried to replace the realtor. There's plenty of companies still today that try to replace the realtor. I've built my career working with realtors, so I understand the value of them. And there is nothing out there that today or tomorrow will replace the local knowledge a real estate agent can have about the market, about the activity, about neighborhoods, school zones. There's all this data, but there's a lot of offline data about real estate that people don't realize that, we call like qualitative information that realtors have access to, that I think really, really gets undersold in media and in the headlines. Realtors get charged too much, or, realtors do this. And it's like, no, like the best realtors are so much worth their money because, again, it's such a large investment you're making and they're the broker of the deal. You can make a lot more money and a lot better investments working with the right agent. And so that's something that I think investors should consider, is that having a good realtor partner on the ground is important. But also what's cool about working with Newzip is that we've curated the list of our agent network. So if you work with one agent in one city, but want to buy advice property to another city, we can get an agent that looks just like that as well. So we can give you coverage if you're looking to buy in multiple markets, if you're exploring multiple areas. You just work with one real estate partner in Newzip, and then we'll have 5, 10, 15, 20 real estate agents working for you. And I think that's really critical to those investors that are buying in different areas around the country.
Great answer. You kind of hit the nail on it, and I think you think the answer is yes. But I mean, as far as, do investors need a special investment focused realtor, or can the right tools and training help any agent deliver for that buyer, right? So like, I know you just mentioned that. I think what you're saying is 100% true, but that's more just being a good realtor, right? As far as helping an investor. But is there more to it than just that? Or is it really just kind of any training? I'm going to get somebody ready for that, right?
Yeah, it depends on the complexity that the investor is looking for, right? So like single family residential, yeah, like a really good agent can help you there because it's a pretty typical transaction for them. If you start to make it more complicated, right? Duplexes, condos, et cetera, that's where knowing a good realtor who's worked with investors in the past, that will know like permit information and best areas that are growing for investment properties, that becomes a lot more valuable. And so we do look for that in our network, don't get me wrong, but it really depends on the type of investor and making sure they connect with the realtor who matches that skill set.
Yep. And I mean, honestly, in this tighter market, I'm pretty sure realtors don't have a ton of choice. I think they have to take investor clients pretty seriously.
Realtors love
Especially,
investment clients. Let's put it like, because if you think about the LTV of their average customer is moving every 5 to 7 years,
yeah.
investors typically transact way more than that. So agents will go an extra mile to earn the trust of an investor, which is like leverage the investors have that they don't sometimes utilize.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. And number one, if I'm finding an investor, I'm gonna be very buddy with them because you have multiple your likelihood of referral business goes up tenfold, right? I mean, so I would hope that realtors, take investor clients seriously. But especially with programs like Beeline's, where we work with realtors on DSCR and business purpose loans all the time. I mean, I just think I think we're really seeing a big transition there, um, with just realtors taking a bit more time on learning about these programs and utilizing them with investors that they speak to that may or may not know about that program. So it's been a pleasure to see, and I know for sure that the Newzip platform has played kind of a pivotal role in that development.
Yeah, I think another role we play that we don't talk about as much is like kind of quality assurance, making sure that the realtor feels supported. And if they're working with a unique loan product that they have not worked with before, things can happen. What's cool about our platform is, we don't charge agents more than like the average referral network, right? We
Yep.
charge market rate, just like Zillow, even though our leads, when we hand them off to realtor, convert 10x what Zillow's done do. So realtors love to be in our network, rightfully so.
100%.
The way we utilize that leverage is data. We say, hey, I really need you to give me weekly or daily updates. We need to know X, Y, and Z. When are they looking at open houses? When is new property becoming available, et cetera, et cetera. And that data allows us to inform the loan officer so that everyone's on the same page. And it's crazy to me how much in this industry people will not be on the same page.
No.
And so we provide that kind of like quality assurance layer where our platform's collecting information from the loan officer, the realtor, and the consumer. And then we kind of become the source of truth with what's going on with the transaction and making sure everything is going well. And if something looks off, if there's a red flag, we notify all the parties. Like actually our system, we use machine learning to understand when like something looks off from like a typical transaction. So we investigate it. Or sometimes the home advisor will check in and raise a flag and say, hey, let's all regroup and make sure we're on the same page. Like there might be something looks off with this transaction. That's kind of like the underspoken value we provide to our partners.
And just kind of rolling into that, which was just a fantastic answer. I wanted to kind of roll into a little bit about our realtor referral program that we've been talking about. I think I touched on it just briefly, and again, I think it just works so well with what Newzip brings, and I feel like we are bringing kind of a similar value, not necessarily just for realtors, but for social media influencers as well. And kind of here it is in a nutshell, right? So for all of you listeners out there, you can earn $1,500 for business purpose DSCR loans just for referring them to the best experience there is with us here at Beeline. So at Beeline, we do new school investment property loans that kind of make life easier for realtors and help borrowers move quickly. And when you send them our way, you're going to get rewarded. So the way it works is you share your unique referral link via email, text, social media. We track every person who clicks your link and applies. If they close a business purpose loan, you get cash. And that's not just for a purchase, that's for cash out refinances too. So if you're a realtor out there on the Newzip platform, if you're just a realtor out there in general, or a social media influencer and you're leveraging your networks into easy money, this is a great way to do so. Just a handful a year can kind of bring in a pretty lazy 10 to 15K. But you know, it's not just about the money, right? I think other lenders who do investment property loans are pretty, I'm not going to talk junk on any competitors out here, but I'd say they're fairly old school and take forever to close with those types of products. And, you know, they're out there doing a debt to income ratio. They're out here, you know, muddying the waters when they don't need to be muddied, right? So not only are you going to be getting $1,500, but we want you to send people our way because you love what we do and you want the best for your clients. So, you know, DSCR quotes quickly, that type of thing. You know, that's what we're here for. I mean, we want to do the right thing. We want to drive business, and yeah, I think it's great. It's a great opportunity for folks out here that again have that network that we can kind of, you know, commingle and get some new business in. But just wanted to throw that out there because it just feels so in line with kind of what you guys do.
Yeah, working with realtors is incredibly important, and it goes hand in hand, right? And so finding good partners both ways, which I think Beeline's an immensely great lending partner for realtors as well. Obviously, programs like this is not something a lot of folks do. But yeah, it's critical to, just like the infrastructure of real estate, like mortgage and real estate need to coexist.
Must coexist, absolutely. And again, I think you've hit a lot of great stuff here for both for investors, for realtors, for buyers. Adi, do you have any finishing words here? Just anything you wanted to say as far as just final thoughts?
You know, no, I think it's a really interesting time to be in this industry. And I think that it's really important what we do as conduits of the industry, because like you're right, like homeownership is at stake here. And if affordability keeps going the way it's going and wage growth continues to stagnate behind, less and less people will become homeowners. And like, no one really wants that, right? That's like how this country has passed down generational wealth for centuries. And so I think, you know, it is important, not just to the consumers listening, like, I don't know what you've heard, like home ownership is critical to building net worth. So like own a home. And then to other folks in the industry who are listening, it's like, hey, it's our job to make sure we can empower people to buy a home and to do that in multiple ways. And so, you know, I just think that's, if I had one last message, is just like to the industry, like, sure, you read the headlines and mortgage rates this and realtors that, but it's like, yeah, like we talked about earlier, demand's not going away. The path to, you know, building net worth and real estate as investment assets is like only going to increase. So let's like help, you know, Americans do that, and not Americans too, right? Talk about international clients. So
absolutely,
yeah, that's really it.
Adi, a champion of fostering home ownership. We truly appreciate you on the show today. Thank you again. For all of you listeners out there, I hope you guys enjoyed the pod today. We have a lot more stuff coming in, so don't forget to tune in next time. We got episodes coming fast and furious this summer, so we're trying to provide context for all of you investors out there. And listen, we appreciate you guys very, very much. Alex Sendek is over and out. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.